Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Old School Finance with Abraham and Friends. I got a good one going on this evening. It's going to be called Building Wealth Through Cybersecurity. I've invited some friends on that are currently in the cybersecurity field. We're going to talk about their journey. We're going to talk about how they build wealth and how they work within this environment today as we see cybersecurity being at the forefront of a lot of the businesses that are out there and a lot of markets out there. And now you can work from anywhere and be in cybersecurity. So, without a last minute draw, let's go ahead and start bringing people in. Welcome to Old School Finance with Abraham and Friends. Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast.
What's going on?
Let me get y'all set up on the view right. There we go. So, as promised, Old School Finance has got us some guests tonight, and we're going to talk about cybersecurity and some wealth building. I want everybody to tell them a little story about yourself, a little bio. We're going to start with Mr. Ernest Smith. I can't hear Ernest, so I don't know if we're getting some feedback from Ernest. So we're going to skip Ernest and go straight to Mr. Eric Kelly.
So, good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Kelly, retired Air Force. Been working in cybersecurity for about 30 years now. Business owner as well as a cybersecurity support enterprise personnel side of the house. But glad to be here today. E, thank you for the invitation.
Well, thank you for joining us, Eric. Man, it's always a pleasure to we get a chance to talk on a podcast and talk about something that we do as a day to day. So this is going to be a good little fun conversation. Jonathan, let's go ahead and see what you're talking about today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. I'm Jonathan Banks. I've only been in cybersecurity officially about 4 years now. Recently graduated, got all my certifications, so I'm more in the working and feet boots on the ground space within cybersecurity. So I got that kind of point of view, bringing it in. Worked in different IT fields, help desk. That's where I started, and just worked my way up to cybersecurity. So now I'm an engineer.
Ernest, we got you back on the mic. Are you good?
Yeah, I wasn't feedback on me. My mic was muted, so I'm not sure where that feedback was coming from. But yes, I'm Ernest Smith. Been in the industry for about, I'm going to say 17 years now. And I'm also retired military. My roots are in cyber armed and military and IT. So pretty much learned IT stuff, as a whole, and graduated from IT into security. I personally feel that you should learn how IT stuff works before you secure it. So, and I live in Frisco, Texas, around the corner from where the Cowboys practice, believe it or else.
You're not a Dallas Cowboy fan, are you?
Oh, no, definitely not.
Okay, just checking. I'm also in cybersecurity. It's kind of interesting. I got in the field coming out of human resources, and I've studied and I've worked beside Eric and worked beside Ernest throughout the years, last 10, almost 10 plus years now, getting my certifications, getting informed of how the language of cybersecurity works, the language of IT works. And we're here to tell you that you can be very successful in IT. So we're going to give you a couple of examples of things that has helped us, and we utilize that to get better in our field, garner higher wages in our field, and build on that throughout the years. So without ado, because you got to have some questions, we got some conversational questions. So who wants to jump in there with the first question? Says, what's your cybersecurity journey in a nutshell? So I'll tell you what, we'll start with Jonathan, since he's been in the field the least, and we'll build on it. So we'll go from Jonathan, Eric, back up to Ernest.
So my cybersecurity journey in a nutshell, funny enough, I started working at Apple as a technician. That was like the real tech job that I started. I got to meet a lot of people that were inside of the IT space, more on the enterprise level. And so they were, talking to me saying I was wasting skill. did my due diligence, look for a school that was going to be able to provide me the education as well as certifications. That's one main thing I did learn within the cybersecurity space. Certifications are key. It actually kind of matters more about certifications than a degree at certain points, depending on who you're applying with, who you're going to be working with. But you can get ahead without having a degree. I just wanted a degree personally. But certifications were definitely a key thing that I was looking for. Decided to go to WGU. They had a great program. They start you from the bare bottom and work you all the way up to getting your pen test certification, cybersecurity analyst certification, all that good stuff. So it was definitely a great journey. Like a lot of people will want, you learn the ins and out of a computer to begin, and then you actually learn how to secure it. And I mean, like, now where I'm at is just seeing the real ins and outs of what cybersecurity entails. Like, book knowledge is great, but when you actually put it into the field, a lot of that you got to not throw it out the window, but it gets applied differently. So that's the space that I'm in now, is starting to see everything unfold, how all these skill sets that I've learned, how they are able to be applied in the workforce, and some of the things that I did learn, how it doesn't apply.
So, I mean, you combine question 1 and 2, which is great. And it's interesting that I didn't come into the cybersecurity field through any background like Ernest or Eric. I wasn't in the military. I had to go in there and do the same thing. I had to learn. And it was interesting. I got my very first job in cybersecurity as an instructor, teaching how to do accreditation. And I had no idea how to do accreditation. And I took an opportunity and got my certifications and began to learn. Actually, my early teacher was Ernest Smith on this podcast. He was one of my earlier teachers, followed up by Eric, teaching me different ins and outs, the lingo of cybersecurity or IT. What's the server? How does this connect? Different things, firewalls, and that's the language of what we're speaking. But just like Jonathan just said, you can start anywhere. He started at Apple. So, Eric, where did your journey start at?
So for me, I started in the military. That's where I learned my initial skills, and then just locking down, security operations centers, those things, small networks, and then it just grew from there. Outside of that, I moved into the contracting world and got more and more experience, the policy side. And the biggest thing for me, you're always learning. So whether you're at the help desk level or once I reached CISO level, you're always learning. One of the biggest things for me as I started that journey, Ernest, who's here on this podcast, taught me something that was very important. Know what right looks like.
Yeah.
It's hard to continue on that journey if you're doing the wrong things over and over. I mean, you're not getting anywhere. You're not helping those organizations that you're there to support. So continue on your journey, whether it's from the bottom, you're mid tier, or you're at the top. Continue to learn and know what right looks like.
What's interesting, I know that, can you tap on your time when you spent overseas working in IT on a contract? How does that differ from when you're working in the US? And how do you get those contracts or those contract positions?
So for me, it's the networking game. I'm very tapped into a lot of different companies, a lot of different POCs. My network base is always growing. I use you guys as I meet you along this journey in the different phases. Under one company, maybe IP Secure, it's growing. Then I move on to the next company with Dell or with the hospital systems. My network base is always growing. So whether it was overseas or in the US, the networking part plays a big part of expanding out that base.
Now, here's what's interesting. Now, we've all networked with each other for the last 10 years. I met Ernest on my very first day working with a company at a job that I did not have all the experience, but I had all the determination to get the experience. Ernest, how did you get your background? And piggybacking off what what Eric said about networking and stuff, how did you tie all that together from that first time we met in standing in the new office downtown San Antonio?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Good times. My journey also started in the military. in IT. Literally, when I say literally starting from the bottom, as in I was working at the help desk, resetting passwords. That's all I was trusted with. Okay.
That's it. Yes, sir.
You don't touch nothing else. We don't know you. We don't like you. We don't trust you. So obviously, you got to gain your, get your experience and gain that trust to do other stuff. Eventually, I became a sysadmin, then a network
What's a sysadmin?
System administrator.
Okay.
Yeah, administering like Windows and operating systems and stuff. And eventually made my way. My first full cyber thing was for U.S. Army Japan, regional network operations and security center. So that's me and a warrant officer ran that place for about 2.5 years. So my roots in cyber is from a NOSC, or Network Operations Security Center, monitoring people and devices on the network.
Ernest, hold on. How many people would you say you were servicing while you were over there, and how big was this network?
U.S. Army Japan, let me see, 8 geographically separated locations of the headquarters. We had to monitor all of those places. User base of about 2,500.
Oh, okay, just 2,500. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, actually, that's kind of a little large, but yeah. So kind of a pretty good user base. And then from there, I would say the most important part of my journey started once I got here. Once I came back from Japan and retired and started working, I met my best friend of all time, the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
What I'm thinking about is me.
Oh, yeah. So
not the NIST special publications.
Once I discovered that there was a documented standard of how we're supposed to do our jobs, as far as my journey is concerned, my journey took a whole different turn when I realized that. And then I also realized that nobody likes to read any of this stuff. So I saw a niche that needed to be filled. It was painful at first. I used to fall asleep reading NIST publications, but now it can be a Saturday morning, and I'm doing the unthinkable on a Saturday morning.
This is the interesting thing, because we've all experienced and understanding the NIST and how to apply it to our jobs. But we also, except for Jonathan, made a transition from our military lives into our contract lives or our civilian lives. And the interesting thing is I had a set pay amount, and I wanted to make a certain amount of money based off my military life. And as long as I got that, I was happy. And as you made that transition, and Jonathan, when you came out of working at Apple and going into college and looking at the market, I want you to also speak on what was your first vision of a salary that reflected the work and time that you put into educating and doing the job itself. Mine was 85,000. I said, if I make 85,000, I'm doing good. My first job offer was for 88,000. So Ernest, when you made that transition, what was that first job offer, or what was that expectation going into this field once you retired from the military?
Yeah, I had to get slapped in the face with a little bit of reality when I first retired. I had picked up CISSP right before I got out. So I'm thinking, with the experience I have running a NOSC, I got CISSP. In my head, I'm needing 100 in San Antonio, 100K. And I'm not accepting anything less, because I'm hearing about people with similar credentials, et cetera. And no. I was getting offers for like 75. Nothing over 80 in the very beginning. Nothing. And I was getting very frustrated with it. And the wife spoke the truth. She says, I know you feel like you're worth this, but obviously the market is telling you otherwise.
So get back.
Yeah.
Now we've all started
at scale that expectation back just takes.
And that's the interesting thing. We all started in this field, and we had an expectation of what we thought our salary was going to be. But from my perspective, being new to the field, the one thing I told myself is, let me get my foot in the door. So Eric, when you got your foot in the door, Did you get that reality check too?
Yeah, pretty much like Ernest. Coming out of the military, I just wanted something that equaled
Mm.
or slightly better of what I was making when I was in, right? I had the new credentials, I had all this experience, and I was ready to show the world.
Mm.
So, unlike you guys, I got hit with 60. And yeah, but Eric, you said something important. Get your foot in the door. And that's all I wanted. I needed them to see my
Mm.
experience, what I could do for their company, and it rolls slightly over that. So over the course of the next couple of years, 2 years later, I was introduced to an organization where Ernest is working, and I moved up about 20 grand with that jump. And then with the next jump, took on more responsibility, with policy, another 20 grand jump. And then I went overseas where I was over 5 data centers, and then it jumped significantly. So it comes with time. It comes with if you're willing to move to where the need is. We've got those jobs that are 50,000. We've got those that are 500,000. If you're willing to step up into where the need is, you can meet those figures.
Before I get to Jonathan, I want to circle back to your time when you said you went overseas to work. Can you give the listeners or paint them a picture of how long does a contract last overseas? How much is a nice salary that you can make overseas, and how's that living environment?
You get a little bit of control about where and how you want to live. Let's just say, for instance, if you're there just for the money, then you can go to, like I said, I took a contracting position. So if you want to go somewhere a little bit more hazardous, you may be living in a tent. Um, you're the tip of the spear as far as salaries. So you can do that $400,000 job. If you want a little bit more comfort living in Dubai, where you've got a apartment to yourself, you may bring that down to 185 to 225, those type of things. So it just depends on where you are, the amount of responsibility you're going to have, and the kind of hours they're expecting out of you. Uh, the more you give them, the more you can make. So there's a lot of negotiation power when you move overseas.
For 225, I'll rack. I'll rack. I'll go ahead and work there about 12 hours. I'll I'll give it to you. Now, y'all got a perspective of people that are retiring, moving into the field. Now, I wanted Jonathan on the podcast so he could give you perspective of someone that's finished college, started out, and now how he views his expectation at how his salary demands going to look from that perspective.
So my journey was a little different, only because I was getting work experience at the same time I was in school. So as I was getting my certifications, I started in the help desk. So I had my A+, it'll like just the basic foundational certifications, and I started in the help desk, started working, getting my feet wet there. My initial salary was $50,000, and going from Apple to the did I lose you guys?
No, you
Okay.
didn't.
Going from
closed again.
Apple to moving into the enterprise world, that $50,000 seemed like it was a super growth for me, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm in there, I got my foot in the door, I'm learning. What I did see is once you're in a company, your salary doesn't grow directly from that company that you're at. You usually have to like learn what you can learn from that company, build your brand, and then if there is a position inside the company, great. Sometimes you might have to look outside of your company to find a position that you want to get that increase in certain instances, right? So like I seen like as I gained more certifications, my marketability increased. I started getting a lot more calls about contract opportunities. I started getting a lot more calls about in the salary change, right? Like I was getting paid $50,000. Now they're calling me for $85,000, $90,000 opportunities, right? And then I was able to transition to information security analyst contract. That moved me into the 80,000 range. And then that changed my palette, right? So like the roles that I was being or looking to accept or even entertaining changed. So it went from looking at that information security analyst role or the engineer role that's paying $80,000. I'm like, I'm getting paid that now. I'm not going to transition to something that's not matching or exceeding where I'm at now. And then I'll have my engineering role now that bumped me up another 15,000. So I'm not at the 6-figure mark, but I'm making treks there, right? Like I'm in the engineering space. I'm gaining the experience as an engineer. I'm learning how to build solutions, even how to articulate myself in meetings, how to carry myself in certain conversations, different point of views as far as when it comes to budgeting, how to speak to vendors. So I'm taking everything that I'm experiencing in my role, even though it may not be the ideal role that I want or the ideal salary I want, but taking that experience to prepare myself for when I step into the role that I want to be in.
I will say that. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just going to say, and to that point, don't rush it. The money, everything will come with it in due time. Take this time to learn every nook and cranny, every bit of security that you can, the paperwork, the policies, like Ernest was talking about, what comes with that. Know what right looks like. Take that time to become the SME, the subject matter expert in all areas of that field. The money will come. Don't worry about that part.
I think one of the biggest things that was beneficial to me, considering I was in a field that I didn't speak the language and I had to learn the language, Eric and Ernest, we always challenge each other to be better. Ernest spoke about the NIST special publication. It's the document that we utilize for accreditation. But we'll say that's our Bible of our backbone for cybersecurity for what we do. And I used to come up there with all kind of questions. There are no questions that you should never ask. None. If you have a question, no matter what the question is, always ask that question, because you'll be surprised at how many people that you think are smart. Because I used to think a lot of people were smart in IT until I met them, until I started learning and I started putting myself in the books. But you got to put your time in there. Over the last 10 years, and anybody can jump in on this, over the last 10 years, how has the cybersecurity landscape changed to increase our salaries or to increase our opportunities?
Let me, I haven't spoken in a little while. Let me, and I'll briefly backtrack to the getting the raises part. You guys are right about the, getting that experience and then moving on to another position. I actually did it a little different. I don't know if you guys know or not, but I started off, what was it, Global GRS?
GRS. I don't remember what it stood for.
So I got hired at 78. No, they wanted to do 75, but I convinced them to save a little bit of my pride. They started me at 78. So, but how about 3 months later, I demanded like a $25,000 pay raise, and they gave it to me. So I didn't have to change jobs to get a pay raise. But anyway, on the just on the front of to me, I feel like you can put yourself in a position to demand more money and a pay raise. Okay. And and I'll try my best to keep this as simple as possible. I mentioned NIST again, right? That's not just for the government. That is a national standard. That's for everybody. Private companies, anybody that's doing cybersecurity should be adhering to that. Okay. And it's free. We can download everything right now, and our tax dollars help pay for it. What I get frustrated with in the industry is if we have this documented standard out there, but for some reason we're refusing to read it, to learn it, to take it in, because I promise you all, ever since I ran into my best friend NIST, it has put me in a position to demand top dollar from whoever I deal with in any capacity. Okay. And I'll tell people in a heartbeat, I'm one of the best. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm up there. And if you want the best, you have to pay for the best. But I've read these NIST publications so much to where you can literally dazzle any room that you walk into knowing this stuff. And what's that old saying? You want to hide something from someone, put it in a book. Right? So this is so true. So like I said, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but if you understand the why, you're doing what you're doing. A lot of the times we just go to work and we're just doing what we're told to do with no idea why we're doing it, or no idea of the bigger picture or the context. Because if we learn how to think like the senior leadership and the things that they're dealing with, and then with NIST, you learn stuff like stakeholder management. You know, you learn that all that stuff is in print and in writing. And I've learned it so well to where I get paid to talk about it. I get paid to train people with almost ungodly amounts of money for that.
You know what's crazy is we like when we're talking and we're doing work stuff, I'll call Ernest up or I'll call Eric up and I'll be like, hey, you know what? I got this question. I'm not familiar with this security control, or I haven't worked with this control. We've always kept the network alive.
Yeah.
So if you get a group of friends together and y'all all in this field, by all means, always keep the network of information alive, because if it may be something that you're not working on, they may be working on. And you can take that information and you can turn that into capital. Either capital in the form of a higher paycheck, or capital in the form of more knowledge in an area that somebody else may not have that knowledge in.
Absolutely.
Now, I got to piggyback on what Ernest said. Ernest didn't just turn this beginning that I had with him into just a regular job. Ernest took a leap forward and built a company around developing that same information. Ernest, can you tell me a little bit about what made you take it from being a worker to being the boss?
So the more I realized that I was one of very few people that bothered to read these publications, and whenever I would start talking about the stuff, it would seem like it's French to everyone else. And I'm going, wow, no one really reads this stuff. So I tripled down once I realized no one else except me is reading it like that. So I kept reading and reading and reading and learned the risk management framework inside out just from reading the publications over and over again. And when I started the company, I started with training. I was traveling around the country giving RMF classes. I developed my own risk management framework course that I was teaching. So I was traveling to different places, and building up because I wanted to get into the training part, because training in cybersecurity is sorely lacking in our industry.
Oh, yes.
Sorely lacking. And when I say training, I mean good training. We're not talking about a CBT of want, as in someone that's actively engaging you and talking to you and regular people talk and showing you the ins and outs of things that, So I've been training ever since. But from there, I even used the training as an advertising for consultant work. So if I just taught you all week in this, I'm already advertising that I know what other people don't. So it's a natural want to hire me for the work, because at the end of every class, I do a shameless plug for business. Hey, you already know I know what I'm doing because I've been demonstrating it to you all week. So yeah, that's pretty much how I leapfrogged into the business part. I had to make it hurt a little bit. I had to train, develop the training course. And then I was lucky enough to have a company that I was working for. They allowed me to work from home and build my business at the same time. As a matter of fact, they helped me build my business. I was a W-2 employee under these people, and I was doing such a great job for them. They was like, look, as long as you're doing what you're doing for us, we'll help you build your business. So all I'm saying is, the more I learn about NIST and the more knowledge I gain, it seems like I have more elbow room with anyone I deal with.
It gives you more flexible. It gives you a lot more flexibility. Eric, now Ernest has leapfrogged and become his own boss and took the information that we all had at the same time and build upon it. Now, I know that you've expanded on that same foundation in different areas. Can you talk a little bit about your drone work, a little bit about your pen testing work?
I can. So a portion of that is on the executive side in management. So when we talk about the NIST paperwork and building those ATO packages, there's some oversight that's needed there. So I took that small field and centered my business on CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer training. And so I was going to different offices, different organizations, and helping them align those type of things. And so how to build out your teams. And then just utilizing my network. Would lean on Ernest as far as training, lean on you guys that were working for the VA hospital systems and see how you guys are doing things over there. And just took those best practices to make a part of my training as I went out to different companies. So in addition to that, I'm also a kid at heart. So I've loved drones and flying planes since I was a kid. I started a drone business in 2015, I believe, and it has just expanded. So I've got a lot of customers out there from HEB, Amazon, a few other companies, a lot of ranchers, land work, and those type of things. So I took a passion, turned it into a business, and it's going wonderful. So we also dabble in real estate, investing,
Yeah.
those type of things. So the stock market, Eric, you and I talk quite a bit about that. So you take all of those things and just complete your brand, expand out your brand. Cybersecurity is where my primary target is, but I have passions on the side that I just use to build the brand.
Now, Eric, I need you to expand because I got a little drone at home too now. I need you to expand on what are some of the requirements that you had to get in order to fly your drone. Mine, I just charge it up in the office and I take it outside. What are some of the things you had to do to fly that drone?
No problem. So the first thing you have to do if you're thinking about doing this as a business on the commercial side, you have to pass the 107 Part B of the to get your pilot's license. So there's a pilot's
Mm,
license that comes along with that. So there's a bit of study time. You got to understand how things work because you're basically a pilot to a certain extent. You have to understand the wind conditions, how things work at the airport, the height that your drone can go. If there are other planes and helicopters in the area, you need to get that drone down and out of the way. So that's from the the 10,000-foot view. And then within that, you have to understand what your customer is asking. That's where the camera work comes in. So whether you're doing surveys or photos of a new house or a landscape or whatever it is, you have to understand the big picture going around that business.
Now, Jonathan, I know you wanna venture off and become your own boss too. What is your vision now that you had opportunity to be in the field for a while and to learn different things and speak to different people? What's your vision in getting into cybersecurity in a different aspect?
Um, so my vision, like an end goal, would be making a mentorship program. One thing that me and a few of my other peers have seen is that a lot of the youth, especially like youth of color, African American, Hispanic, don't have access to cybersecurity knowledge. Like they're not being exposed to the career aspect of what they can do with tech, what does cybersecurity entail beyond just the bare basis they see on TV. So we want to start to expand that out to them, meet them like earlier, like sixth, seventh grade, middle school, where
Oh,
they're
nice.
starting to really start diving into tech, but like giving them how they can take their day-to-day tasks. Like even thinking back when I was in middle school, I was messing around with MySpace and like CCS code and not knowing that that was actually coding. So like putting that in perspective for them, like, hey, the little things you're doing today can actually give you a salary when you get older. That can be your business when you get older. And just getting our community more involved and thinking bigger beyond just who's on TV, who's on MTV, who's on BET, what's going on Instagram and sports and all that. So yeah.
So hearing that, I got to get Ernest back in there to give us a little sample of what you're doing in Alabama right now, and how's that tie into how and what Jonathan wants to do as well.
Yeah, they're very closely related, Jonathan. Very closely. My original intent was to do this in my home state and town of Fayetteville, North Carolina, but I'll
We'll talk about that later.
But the Alabama Cybersecurity Fellowship Program is it's to get cybersecurity talent into rural America. Okay, because no cyber talent wants to move to rural America, or I hate to say rural Alabama, to work. So why not take the talent that they have locally and flip them into cybersecurity workforce people that can work at those hospitals and banks and municipalities in their own city or in their own town. So, so there's a pretty much at the, I didn't know there were so many community colleges in Alabama. So it's like a lottery thing right now. So I'm on my second batch of college students. The first batch was like 13, and it's like a lottery thing. They get hired to a paid internship at a job doing cyber stuff. And then while they're there, I am schooling them on all the things they need to know and do to be more successful in the workplace, teaching them a lot of the lingo, the stuff that the teachers didn't teach them in college and that kind of stuff. So, so like I said, I'm on the second batch now, and it's not just kids. It's actually older people. Like my brother was a civil engineer, and he switched over to cybersecurity. I met another brother in college getting a cybersecurity degree, and he was a civil engineer too. So you have people that are older and changing fields, and that's a group of people that I didn't think about before. And so you got a lot of people, they feel they're in a dead end career and they want to do something different. And then you have the babies themselves. So I was more interested in the babies and making sure our younger people. But overall, the last thing I'll say on this is the industry as a whole. Okay, we're critically short to start with. Okay, and then the talent that we do have is overrated. I hate to put it out there like that, but a lot of our cyber talent is overrated, which is why the bad guys are body slamming us daily. Okay. I want to strengthen our industry as a whole by getting to these people when they're younger, ramming NIST down their throat, telling them that this is a national cybersecurity standard. How could you not know this? How are we not studying this? It's a documented standard. That's the most stringent cyber standard on earth, and it's free of charge to learn. So that's I'll stop there. Go ahead, Dave.
You know what? And you make a good point, because we all know the NIST special publications back. That's what we read every day. We read security controls and things of that nature in our day-to-day jobs. With that being said, before we wrap it up, we got to talk about AI and what's next. We got everybody speaks and says AI, GPT. We got AI coming to do this, AI to do that. You got to remember now, AI is something that you still have to input something into to get something out of it. So back to what Eric said early on when we started talking was you got to know what right looks like. So you can't just drop something in Chat GPT or drop something in an AI and your expectation is you're going to get something that's usable if you don't know what's usable. So since I already got you in the middle, Ernest, what are your thoughts on how AI is going to impact our career field?
I'll give an opening shock statement on AI. If you're not leveraging AI in your day-to-day work, someone that is doing that is going to take your job.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, AI has almost tripled my productivity as an individual, not just as a company, as an individual. There are tasks, and me being in the training circuit on top of that, AI does all of the heavy lifting for me. Stuff that used to take me a long time to do. So I'm leveraging AI primarily for productivity and being able to do more work in a shorter amount of time. And that is what I'm pushing on to those college students that I'm dealing with right now. And AI comes in a lot of different forms. You mentioned Chat GPT, Gemini, but you also have Copilot within Microsoft. And I leverage Copilot just as much as and I have a paid subscription to I have Gemini Advanced. So I recommend we all have a paid subscription to it. And if you haven't learned how to use it, you need to start watching, go to YouTube University and start learning how to use it better.
YouTube University. I'm going to bring Jonathan up there. What you got, Jonathan, on AI?
Honestly, the workforce is intertwined with AI at this point. Like, I don't see any company that's a standing, thriving company not using AI. As far as when it comes to our space, I want to say, if you're looking at it, you'll see the world is transitioning from an implementation to orchestration type of mindset.
Mm.
But to keep yourself valuable, I would recommend to keep that implementation mindset. Know the bare basic, know the bones, know how to code, know how to read code. Because I feel like that's one skill that's kind of leaving with AI. A lot of people don't know how to read code. They don't even know how to code bare basics. So they're just thrown into AI and say, oh, debug for me or write this code. And it does make productivity good. But if you got to understand with AI, it does mess up. So you have to have good eyes. You have to know what you're looking for and know what errors that you're looking for to use it properly.
Which, hey, Eric, let's add on to that now.
Well, I have to agree with the previous two gentlemen, man. The for productivity is a must-have. It does the heavy lifting, like Ernest says. Um, Once again, know what right looks like. Proofread everything as it's coming out, but it's a must-have moving forward. The industry is moving forward. It has decided to move forward with AI. Get out there and get that free training. So whether you're Microsoft Learning, Microsoft has some free training classes. LinkedIn, believe it or not, has some free training out there. YouTube, there's a lot of different venues that you can use for the free training. So learn it, add it to the job, utilize it as a tool, and keep it moving forward. You got to stay fresh as technology moves forward.
Now, one thing I'll say is, and I think it's important, is, and because Ernest, you touched on this about the rural communities. There was a time when, let's say, a factory in a rural community closed down, and the economic parts of that community were impacted because a lot of people worked at the factories. We work in a day and age now where you can build an IT infrastructure in a rural community and never leave home. Think about the economical impact you would do if you got 25 people that worked at a factory now are doing cybersecurity, making $85,000 a year from home, how that impacts their community. So we're just a small sample of the people that are in this field that have come through this field, and we see what's going to change in this field. But anybody can start. You can get out there on YouTube University and say, hey, how do I get started, and build on that. And I think that's what one of the points I wanted to make by bringing this group together is I wanted you to see that we've all not started on the same platform. Ernest has done IT in his military time. I've never worked on a network. I've never controlled a network. I started by a job in training because my background was in education. And I said, I want to learn the job that I was teaching others. And I got a job in what I learned. So if you want to put the time and effort in, Jonathan went through college, worked in Apple, and he's continued to build on that platform of knowledge and grow from it. So he's going in a different direction than we are because we had a different path at a different time. Eric is out here doing stuff overseas, working in different countries. He's got drone work. He's expanding on what he's doing. But we've all come into IT some different way, or form, or fashion, and we built on it. But we can't leave without me throwing up some certifications, so people get a chance to look at some of the certs that are out there. Now, I got a couple of them, but I went to Chat GPT and I dropped a question in. I said, give me the top 5 certifications that are out there in our field. Now, Ernest said earlier, CISSP, that's what is the Certified Information Security System Security Professional. Now, you'll meet people and they'll say this is the gold standard of certifications. It does play into salaries. It does play into positions. But remember this, you still got to be able to do the job. And that's where Eric was saying you got to know what right looks like. So you may have a great certification, but you got to know how to do the job. ISACA is the organization that administers the test. Certified Information Security Manager does talk about how to do accreditation. And that's the certification that I hold. Eric and Ernest hold Certified Information System Security Office, CISSP. Certified Ethical Hacker, if I'm not mistaken. Eric, you own that one? You got that one?
Yes, sir. You're correct.
Jonathan, you have that one?
I got Pentest Plus.
Pentest Plus. Look, he came out there hard too. Pentest Plus, little fella. Okay, we'll take you Pentest Plus. The next one is CompTIA Security Plus. Now, y'all can piggyback off this. CompTIA Security Plus was my very first certification in this field. So, Jonathan, That was my first one. But what was your first one, and how did college help get your certifications?
My first one was A+, but that was part of my coursework, right? So like with
There you go.
WGU, you have to pass that certification in order to go to the next class, and they take you through the stages because they're taking it from this aspect of you not knowing anything about computers. So they want you to learn the basics of A+, then you go to Net Plus, and then Security Plus is like towards the end. They give you a like Linux certs and all that in the space as well.
Now that last one down there, offensive security certified professional, that's a new cert. I'm unfamiliar with that cert, but there will always.
I know a handful of people that have that.
Yeah, there's always going to be new certifications out there. But
I'd like to speak on this subject. There's an area in our industry that we are all very, I hate to say very weak. And that area is project management. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cyber efforts that have a lot of moving pieces, a lot of goals within goals. And if you think about some of these more complex cyber missions we go on, a lot of us came up through the ranks as task-oriented technicians.
Mhm.
Okay. So now you've come up as a task-oriented technician and you've proven yourself, but now you have a company saying, well, hey, I have 15 people and we have this massive cyber project that needs to happen. I need you to lead that. Okay. And they look at the crowd and say, who can lead this effort? Who can direct all these people to do these things? And we're sorely lacking in that area. So I personally recommend, at a minimum, a certification like CompTIA Project Plus. You have the holy grail of project management certs, or some people call it the poor man's MBA, project management professional. And instead of once I got CISSP, I scrapped all of them, all of the other ones, and I just wanted project management professional. So I only keep up 2 certifications nowadays: PMP and CISSP, both holy grails in their respective fields. And that's a journey that I will recommend to most. And that's all I have to say on that.
And before I let them wrap it up, here's the thing. You can go out on YouTube and see the practice questions for any one of these certs. And you can prepare yourself to understand how to take a technical cert. I found out that taking a technical cert is not the same as taking a test that you study material and then you regurgitate it. So make sure if you're looking at these certifications that you go out there and you take these certs. And we used to call this thing called OJT, on the job training. While you're out there in cyberspace and you're on YouTube and everything else, you can train. You can go get you a little raggedy computer. You can code. You can build projects. They got a thing out there. If you go to Amazon called Raspberry Pi, you can build your own little network up, and you can do all this stuff. So when you start applying for these jobs and they say, hey, do you have these experience? And if you got a remote job and it pays $55,000 and the average income in your neighborhood is $30,000, that's a big leap. And all you have to do is put the time and effort in. And like Eric and Ernest were talking about, and Jonathan, you got to network. You got to talk to people. You got to be in a circle. And we're in an age now where we don't have to be sitting next to each other to talk to each other. Right now, Jonathan is sitting in Charlotte, North Carolina. Eric is sitting in Alabama, and Ernest is sitting in Fresno, Texas. So we can't have that excuse, well, I didn't see somebody that day. This old school. Get your ass up, figure out a way to talk to each other, and form a group of people that are doing what we're doing. For the last 10 years plus, I've always talked to these two gentlemen about the job. I've always networked them about the job. So old school says, start talking to people. Stop sending people texts and they say, well, they didn't respond. No, get out there and do your stuff. So before we wrap it up, I want to thank everybody for jumping on, because I'll be calling people like, hey, man, come jump on the podcast so we can do some podcast stuff. Now I got to figure out, oh, there's the button right there. Hey, everybody give their parting shot before we close out on what your future endeavors are in cyber or in IT. We'll talk with young Jonathan first, because he has that what's that? You said Pen what? You had the Pen thing. You got the Pen Test Plus. So let's start with Jonathan.
No. Next goal is continue to, cornerstone myself in my career, build up my brand personally, and start the basics and the foundation of my mentorship program. I don't have an exact timeline of when that's going to be completely done, and when that's going to be rolling out, but I started building the coursework. I have an idea of what I want to present. So now it's just doing the footwork, start building my brand, putting it out there, see what opportunities I can bring.
Ernest, what you got going on next?
In our industry, knowledge truly is power in our industry. It's one of the very few industries where the more you know, the more powerful you are. And I will say it for a third time. National Institute Standards and Technology. If you're scared to get into it and read it, you're leaving a whole lot of money on the table. And that is my advice.
Close us out, Eric.
Well, first of all, great presentation tonight, Eric. Great subjects, great questions. Really appreciate you pulling this together. One other thing you and I always talk about quite a bit is knowing your end game. Where do you want this thing to take you? What do you want to get from it? For me, I have roughly 7 to 10 years left in this industry. I plan to leave behind a legacy through mentoring, training, just making yourself better. So whether you're starting from the bottom, I too went through the A plus, Network plus, Security plus certification traits, ended up as a CISO at the top. So whatever route you take to get there, become the best on the way to getting there.
With that being said, thank y'all for joining me for Old School Finance with Abraham and Friends this evening.